So in this video, I'm going to go over what happens when you create sort of a storybook map based on a tour template or a geotagged photo template based off some photos in that. And so you do have to start with photos. That would be the raw data that you start with. And then as we make this web application, what happens in the background, right? And that. So first you have to start off with some photos. So I'll just flip into thumbnail view. I've got some photos here and that. And a big thing on these photos is I'm on Windows right now. I'll right click on properties and I go to details and I can scroll down here and all of a sudden I see a GPS section. This may or may not be there depending whether the device you use to capture the photo, take the photo, actually has a GPS receiver, and especially on a phone, you've turned on permissions or granted location permissions, either fine or coarse, to that app. So if you haven't allowed the camera app to know your location, then your photos won't be geotagged. Never assume that this information is going to be there. So right here it says the latitude is 32, the longitude is 117. That doesn't feel like it's around here in BC. And I'll take a look and no, it's not. I remember taking that one. That one is actually in San Diego, California. And that's where I learned if your yacht doesn't have a helicopter pad with your own personal helicopter, you know, you're not one of the players, sort of deal. But there's a series of those, and you can just randomly check. I'm pretty sure all of these have it, but then I'm not going to be shocked if one of them doesn't in that. So down in GPS, it has the Latin long. That sounds like it's around here, 48, 123. And so a big thing is how does the photo get that information, right? Physically, you have to have some type of location thing, either built in through coarse or fine. If it's fine, it typically means there's a GPS receiver in the device that you are using. But it's done with this EXIF metadata. So all these different image formats and that have the ability to store metadata, and what this spec governs is how in this interchange format between different image formats, JPEG being one of them, GIF another, PNG in that, how do you sort of capture or move forward to the other format, interoperability wise speaking, the extended information, EXIF. And so part of that extended information is geolocation. And again, there's a whole bunch of things that could cause your photo not to have the location embedded in it. But if it is, this is pretty well a universal standard that a lot of the manufacturers follow. And so if you grant the right permissions, they'll fill in the extended information, and then that can be forwarded on to other applications. And so this is a standard. There's lots of libraries out there that'll help you extract this information. It's built into a lot of tools. ESRI is aware of it. QGIS is aware of it. Browsers, not so much. It wouldn't be too much of a tweak to actually let browsers access that extended information, which would be great. But we're not there yet. And so usually you need another tool, but these tools are readily available, right? But the information has to be, put in there by the original device. Otherwise, it's lost. There are ways to add it on afterwards, but it's you manually clicking on the map saying, where I clicked on the map, put that lat long into the extended information for the photo. So you can put it on after. It takes a while to update all the photos. So it's because of this standard that embeds this extended information into the photo format, whether that be JPEG, PNG, GIF, whatever you may have, depending on your device. And so it's actually embedded as part of the image, and that means that other software can get at it. So what I'm going to do is, how do we take those photos here and I guess turn them into a storybook? So I've logged into to ArcGIS Online. I'll go to my content area. Eventually, not all my content, I'll go to my root folder. It's kind of clean. We might see some stuff show up here, but I do want to get it down into this Mod 9 demo in the end for GST 5110, but we'll see what happens. So I'm on the latest version of this ArcGIS story map site, Yeah, this looks very different than the last release. So I suspect they're migrating to something called Experience Builder, which uses the version 4 of the JavaScript API versus version 3. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and go to the classic version, right? In that. And so this is a classic Storybook area that has a lot of different templates in that. And so here we can create stories based on templates. I already have one in here that I may have demoed in class before. So I'm going to create a story. And I'm going to do the map tour one because as you can see, a sequence of places, but typically we can base these off of geotagged photos. So I'll go map tour. And it'll fire up this application, and I think I can, I need to upload my images. So I'm not going to link to them at different places. I'm going to upload them into ArcGIS. So, and this is where things are going to start being made in the cloud for me. And this is where I got to start figuring out what does ArcGIS do with these photos, right? And right now, I can see a list of my folders. So it's aware that I have an ArcGIS online account, and so I want to put it into that Mod9 folder. And I'm going to call this M09 Geo Photo Demo. Okay, so I can find it later, and I'll go create this layer. So what is it doing, right? It's a really good question. So it says layer, that sounds like a JS term, and it is. So it's creating a feature service in the background, and spoiler alert, it's going to be a point feature service. So as I add images, right? So select or drop a photo. So I'm going to, this will be off screen because, I'm going to drag on the first one, which is the yacht. We'll see if this works. Yes, it did that. Now, it knows that it came off my Asus 10 tablet. That's my phone actually. That sort of thing, Zen phone. And that, I believe, and this is the thumbnail. So there's a few things that it's doing that I might not be aware of. It's going to resample my photo into two different ones. So that original high-res photo is going to get resampled into a decent size image that can be displayed in a browser, and also a thumbnail. So it's going to take my original image that's high res, right? So change picture resolution. So you can see it down here, keep the original or change it. It's going to downgrade it. It's also going to create a thumbnail. So it's going to, from my original image, it's going to create two lower resolution images. Okay. And in doing that, it's actually going to lose the extended information. Right, so those photos that get stored up in the cloud somewhere will no longer be geotagged, and that sort of thing. And I'm just gonna, I can look at information in that caption, name, SDUC User Conference 2019, right? We'll call this player. And that sort of thing, and it extracted the location from the photo. That's how it got this dot. I'll just add that to her point. And so what it's doing now, it created the service in the background. It now added one point to that service. So am I lying, right? Is a good question. So let's go into ArcGIS Online and see what it did. This is my content area. I'm going to refresh this, right? Because this site was unaware of what I just did, and there it is. This is a feature layer, so this is an ArcGIS feature layer. That means it's point lines or polygons basically, and it's going to be sending out you the raw vectors. So it's going to send you the point, the vertices for the point, the vertices for the line, the vertices for the polygon. It's not sending you an image of the data, it's sending you the actual data. So let's go in here. Right, so I'll get to what I call the splash page for this feature layer, and then there's usually a link to the backend service URL, and this is where I want to go. This is a classic ArcGIS server feature service, so it's called a REST JSON, and so it's a REST sort of, well, it's called a REST service, which in my world means really long URLs, really long, and JSON coming out. So if I come down to the bottom, right, there's a bunch of things that happened in that. This spatial reference, right, is no longer lat long. So on your phone, they embed a lat long. WGS84 4326 would be the SRI ID. This is the SRI's number, 10,000, 2100, but that cross matches with 3857 Web Mercator. Okay, in that this is rendering information. Notice that this feature service has a set of columns. These are the fields. It has object ID. It's like a primary key. It has name and description. So where I said UC, right, 2019, and I said player, that'll be the description. Icon color, not sure, might be the pin color, but this pic URL and this thumb URL are links to attachments. Okay, and we can see we have query and query attachments. So I'll do a query which will give me the geometry. So I know that the very first feature is object ID 1. Okay, so it starts at 1 and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 like a serial surrogate compound key. I'm going to ask for this in JSON and I'm going to query it and I get the JSON back. Okay, but here's what I want to show you. Those lat longs, what was it, 32 minus 117 are not 32 117 anymore. And we can see the name, right? And that sort of thing was, the description might be there, didn't come across, but that's okay for now. And so we saw that I had typed that in. And we see that these coordinates are not the original coordinates. So there's a bunch of things going on, right? So we had a photo, and in its extended information, we had some lat longs. SRI, right, first creates a point layer. That point layer has a very specific set of columns. I wonder if I go outfield star if I get them all. We'll see. JSON's fine. Query. Ooh, I got lots this time, right? This time I got all the columns in that. I got the name, I got the description, and I got the very long URLs to where the attachments are. So these are where the attachments are stored. Okay, so we'll just go back and say, okay, there's a lot happening right now. So let's go back and review a little bit. Okay, so what happens when it said create that layer, it created this feature service. It had no points in it, right? But it did create specifically an SRI geometry point feature service. It switched projections. Right? The photo is really a lat long in 4326, and this is now Web Mercator, which lines up with their base maps really well, 3857. It has a very specific data model of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. Primary key basically, name and description basically, and then these are URLs to the attachments. So this has query attachments, and I can say object ID 1, what are your attachments? Let's do HTML. And it'll give me back some links. And so I have 2 attachments, and they're always called picture and they're always called thumbnail. Okay? Thumbnail is the lowest resolution image, and picture is the higher res version, but not the original. Okay? So if I go to thumbnail, I get the tiny little thumbnail. I'll go back. And if I go to picture, I get a bigger one. But again, it's still not as high res as the one that it's built off of. Okay. So what I'll do now is I'll go back to the story site. My stories, I've been there. And what I can do now is add another image. Right? So I can go add, grab another photo. Okay, so here is the next photo. I'm going to drag it across. Okay, this is Old Town San Diego. I should know that from the food, but it was a good meal, so I remember it. And so again, my original photos here is actually going to make a lower resolution, and then which will be the one called picture, and then even a smaller one called thumbnail. Okay. And so I can add information. I'll go Old Town. So that was really good. Spicy though. And that. So Old Town San Diego, a little bit of ways from the conference center, but still down in that general part of the world. And I'll go add tour point. And this is it creating a new point and uploading the two images um, to the service. And I can go back to this service if I want. I'll just have to find it here. Possibly, yes. I can go back to the service. Do I want a where clause? Object IDs, comma, 2. I know there's 2 in there now, right? Query attachments and that. And there's the next set of images. Okay? And so that would be that picture that you see there. Okay? Now, I'll just go back again to the map tour, and then I'll add another photo, right? Just properties, and I will take a look at the details just to see. Okay, that's in this area, so that's definitely, when I drag that on, we're going to go to a different part of the globe. It's probably in Victoria, and that and I have no idea what that was. And again, it's extracted the location. Actually, maybe that's not Victoria. We'll see. We'll know soon enough. And that sort of thing. And I can and you can just keep adding photos that way. Maybe I will change the color. And you can, and that's probably the color icon that you saw coming across on the other ones. And so what I can do is I'll just keep adding these photos, and then I'll come back and we'll take a look at the finished product. So I'm back after adding a bunch of photos, and I will close this here, and I think I'm done. So I'll go saving story. So we're good. So I think I can just close this here. I'll just close this window, close this one as well, and I'll refresh this to see if it's found anything. So I've got a demo tour for Mod 9. That's us there. So we could go in and preview this. What would this look like if someone was looking at this on the web? And this is what it would look like to an end user, right? And that sort of thing. There's different styles of galleries and stuff like that. We can zoom in on the map maybe, and that. Oh, that was at Crescent Beach. That one, right? That sort of thing. And so up at Alouette Lake and that, it's looking good. All right, in Sydney and down in Victoria. So and that's what it would look like to a person, right? So there's a map, there's these dots on a map, and that sort of thing. I'll just close this for now. But and you can see is list of photos here if you need to update them. It's a very different look and feel when you're on this side and that. So I was going to see if I can go back here. And the reality is, you know, what it is, it's this point feature service in the background and that. And I can view this in ArcMap, and this is what it would look like in ArcGIS Online in that. I guess I got to log in. And sign in. And so I could have went to my content area and that. I guess open map viewer beta. We'll take a look at it there. I'll just go OK in that. And so when we go in and look at this, what is this really? Oh, we got an interesting point over here. I like that one. That means that it had no coordinates. So you're over at the equator and that sort of thing. Right at the center of Web Mercator projection. That's a cute one. I'm going to keep that one in there. It explains a lot what's going on. But what you see here is you go, well, where are the photos? Well, there are none, right? The idea here is that ArcGIS Online just sees this as a point surface, and that some of these photos, some of these dots do have a photo on them in that, and there they are. It's done as attachments. That's a concept in the geodatabase, supported both in file and an enterprise geodatabase. The concept that a feature can have attachments. So they take your photos, strip out all the extended information, create a feature service, point feature service with a specific set of columns. They create a new point based on that, but they have to project it from 4326 into 3857 Web Mercator, and then they add two versions of your original photo as attachments, one always called picture and one always called thumbnail. Then you can click on these and take a look at them. So the back end sees it quite differently. They just see it as a point feature service with attachments, whereas we see it as a map tour based on geotagged photos. And originally we saw it as some photos down in here that I downloaded from my camera. So three different views. This is the download from my camera view. This is the ArcGIS Online view. And then we have the Storybook view from before. So I hope this gives you a decent overview of all the things that happens from a geotag photo all the way to a storybook. But for now, this concludes this video.